This video is designed to show you how you can make some quick changes with the paint and the antiquing gels to make a piece of decor look better and to repair a piece that might be broken and on clearance and to see that you can actually fix it. These were very poorly done with the antiquing on them. They've got a really poor finish on them, and they literally just swiped these. It's easier to see, I think, on these two mermaids. They literally just swiped 2 brush strokes down this, which is a really bad antiquing job on this. There's rough spots all over this. This arm was cracked and then it did break off, and I have glued it back on with JB Weld super glue, super weld, because it holds almost anything really well and is light activated. So that's repaired. Off camera, I used DAP plastic wood to repair the broken off piece of the tail here. I actually shaped it some while it was wet with my fingers, kept working it as it was drying a little bit, and then just left it, because all of these tails have different flips and swirls on them, so it's fine to have that as is. What I'm about to do is to put some lines into my repair, and I'm going to show you how sanding off some of the roughness that are on pieces like this can make them look much more natural, because they're basically done, I think, in very cheap molds, and I don't know what this material is, but it breaks very easily. So that's where this is going to go. I've got sanding blocks out of different, this is 320, this is 220, this is 220 grit, and here it is, it's hiding under here. And this is 320 grit. So sometimes you need different ones of these. I actually have some small chisels that I can use on this, but you can also carefully use the tip of a razor blade or the edge of a small screwdriver to do the same things that I'm about to do to make the grooves on the tail on this. So we're going to adjust the camera to make sure that you guys can see what's happening here. There's some roughness along here and here that I want to smooth out a little bit. Jim, can you get that any tighter? It's just a very light sanding, just to get that rough edge off so that I can see that it matches what I have over here. Now then, the next thing I'm going to do, there are lines that will be hard for you to see that are coming into the mermaid's tail fins. So actually, I'm going to use this block to help me so that I've got that steady. And this is a sharp edge on this, but I'm going to use that to pull some lines into the plastic wood, so that when it's painted, and they also need to be down under here, you want them going in the same direction. And I'll also show you doing it with a razor blade, because many of you are not going to have the tools that I have. With the razor blade, you kind of have to cut out the groove, so you're tilting it 2 different ways to get the lines in there so that you actually get a groove. And I can see this one is coming from where it was before. Obviously, be careful holding this edge. Keep your fingers off the blade. But with just a little bit of paying attention, you can do that and not worry about it. The grooves in the original piece here are not super deep, so I just have to get enough that it's still going to show after I have put the paint on it. It takes just a little bit of time and effort to do this, but it makes your piece look much better in the end. I go back to my chisel because it's actually easier. And I want to get this done quicker. I'm not worried about the back because it's not going to be seen. This is made to hang on the wall. But now, like right in here on the chest of the mermaid, there is a bobble in the mold, which makes it look like there's a growth on her chest. So I want to get in here with the sandpaper and sand that off, sand it smooth. The other thing I need to do is this thumb is misshapen, so I need to sand that down so she doesn't have, the little girl doesn't have a balloon thumb fitting there. This stuff also sands really easily. The fingers here have been not clearly delineated. Actually, the razor blade's going to be sharper on that and work better on it. So I need to get into those finger spaces, open them up. They may close a little bit when the paint is on there, but it's not going to look like she has no separate fingers. The fingers on the mother need to be sanded smooth on the top here. I'm going to go back to the 220. I thought the 320 was going to do it, but it didn't. And I want to open up more of the thumb line here. For separation. I'm checking the rest of her. There's discoloration, but everything on here is pretty much okay, except for the little girl's thumb here and the 320 grit was enough to repair that. There's also a spot on the little girl's stomach that needs to be sanded smooth. And on her face. And on the mother's face. And the mother's neck. Now that's smooth. The shells are fine. So this one has all its sanding done on it. Off camera, I'm going to spray the Repair with DAP wood putty with spray shellac to seal it, just that area, and then I'm going to paint as a base color cashmere on all of this. And when I go to the next step, I'll explain to you why I chose the pure white as the base color on this. You've seen in other videos, or if you haven't, they're available in the library, where that I paint mermaids to be very realistic and look like a real person. But in this one, I don't want that with these. I want this to be a very neutral piece because they're going to go on each side of a metallic mermaid that is in the entry of my home. And no, I don't have a house full of mermaids. The only ones you would actually see normally will be the ones that are in my entry, and then a couple out in the garden, and one that shows up at Christmas time in a separate setting. So what I'm going to be putting on this as my next step, there have been 2 coats of cashmere over this, which have given this a good solid cover over what I had. I'm going to be using Oyster, and the reason you see some saran wrap here is that's what I do to keep my paints from drying out when the small jars have been opened. If the cover like this one comes back nicely and doesn't tear, I just peel it back and then I can close it right back up when I'm done. I'm going to be using 3 different brushes to do this. 2 art brushes that have good tiny tips on them to get into small spaces, an angled flat 1/2 inch, and this one is a brush from HTP. So that's the next step on this, is to put Oyster on the scales, and I will let that dry. This looks really dark taupe in contrast to the cashmere, but it won't once the next step starts. And you actually have to, for what I'm trying to do here, you actually have to have your base color, which is what Oyster is going to be for me. It has to be darker than the antiquing gels I'm going to be doing, so that I have a very neutral finished look on this that has very subtle lines on it. If you noticed in the fast video of me painting these white, I may go different directions in applying the paint to get to the grooves, but then the final strokes are always to smooth it down in one direction, and it should be the natural direction your eye would flow. Pardon me. If you go every which direction on it and you don't smooth it, you wind up with a very, very sloppy finish. And you're also, the antiquing that I'm going to do on this will not go on nicely. Instead of highlighting the scales, which is what I'm going to want it to do, it would highlight all the myriad different direction of brush strokes. I'm going to continue working on this, but I'm going to be turning it in ways that make it easy for me to see what I'm doing. So my head may be getting in the way, and some of the video that we continue with. The other pair has all of the Oyster on it. This has a little bit more that is tight detailing, so that's all I'm going to show you really on this, and then I'm going to continue with the tail on this. The fine tip on this art brush is extremely helpful with this. I'm going to be layering a couple of antiquing gels over what are the scales of the mermaid tail and over the shells and the starfish on the little girl. So this next step, I'm going to be putting pearl over this, and you'll see why I wanted this to be pure white, or at least I'm hoping it's going to show up on camera, because the pearl antiquing gel is slightly creamy and it has an iridescence to it, which is going to give an effect on these the scales, and I'm also going to add that over the tail. Before you put antiquing gel on, you need to let the base of paint dry for at least 12 hours. Overnight is better because as you're putting it on and then you're rubbing it off, you can pull some of the underlying paint off. I got a little bit on my brush and I pounced most of it off onto a plate. I thought I was going to have to wipe this back, but I'm not going to, at least here. And sometimes that's the case. Most of the time you're going to wipe back or apply with a chip brush, depending on what you're doing. But I really wanted to pull down the oyster, but I still want it to show as different than the white of what would be the skin. And I definitely do not want any of this on the white that's on the body. And by having so little on my brush, it allows me to control it the same as if I wiped it back. I'm not putting a heavy coat on. And then I'm also here going to put it on the tail. The very bottom part of the tail fin. I'm going to reposition this so that, pardon me, I can get into the back part here. And then I'll work on the front. I can stay in the frame if I can move my paint. There we go. And I'm not trying this time to get all the way into the grooves that delineate the scales. But I do want these to come down smooth. And then also on the tail. Now, if you can look at both of these, the upper shot is probably the best, Jim. You should see that the pearl has diminished the contrast. It's still there, but it's diminished it by quite a bit, which is what I wanted to happen. And so now I'm going to put the pearl on this as well. This has been drying for probably about 20 hours. And it's definitely very dry to the touch. But in applying another layer of antiquing gel over this, if you rub hard, you could still pull some of this off. So I'm not going to be applying it in a way that I have to rub anything off. I'm going to be using a dry brush technique on it. If I needed to apply another layer and I was going to wipe it back, I would wait at least 48 hours between the coats to do that, because it's too likely to lift up, because it can reactivate the one that's under there because it's not cured yet. What I have right now that I'm going to apply on here is the mix of antique gold that I love. It's 2 parts of HTP's regular gold metallic and 1 part of their champagne. And I love the color that it turns out to be. I'm going to get very little on my brush, just on the tips, and you're not going to be able to see it on the camera for the close-ups, but I'm going to be tapping that so that I have very little on there, and I can control how much I am putting on these scales. And I'm going to be pulling it up through here. And you probably have to dip multiple times, but it's getting just the tiniest amount on there. And you want to keep pulling the same direction. I don't want to go back and forth. That will fill in the grooves, which I do not want to happen. You can go back and grab the antiquing gel off the plate, but you always want, see right there, I got a little bit of a puddle because I had not pounced that as well as I thought I had, but I was able to smooth it out. Now hopefully you can see that there is a difference between this one and this one. I will try to light adjust when we edit the video to try to bring that out more for you, but there's a definite difference here. It's subtle, but it's made this look more of the different colors that you think of with the shimmer of scales. And even though my brush looks like it has, that it's full, it is not. It's just on the very tips. It's pushing up from my pouncing. In order to not get on anything here, I've made a fist here and I have braced my elbow on the table and right behind the main part of my wrist here so that I can get in here and not get this on anything but what I want. It gives me more control, and I'm less likely, because your hand can bobble, your arm can, I'm less likely to cause any, to get it anywhere I don't want it. And I saw when I was in that light that I hadn't come up high enough here. The next spot that I want to put this on this is the tail. I don't want the fins on any of these to be starkly in contrast to the scales. So I'm going to use this antique gold again. And I'm going to dry brush along it. I'm using the side of my brush. So that I'm hitting the tops of this. That is a barnacle they tried to put in there. I'm not sure why, but I don't want to emphasize that, so I'm not going to highlight it. It's the very lightest of touch. You can figure out how much stronger, how much more forcefully you need to do it as you're actually doing it. But you definitely don't want to go hard because you'll start going down in the valleys, and that will ruin the effect. At this point, one of the reasons you want to wait the 48 hours is that at this point, when I'm applying this, if I needed to, if I decided I really do not like how this looks, I could spray it with water and get it all off. But if you did that and it had not dried long enough, you would start lifting the lower layers of antiquing gel and even paint. It can be frustrating when you want to get a project done in a hurry, but sometimes it becomes the hurrier I go, the behinder I get. And you don't want to be in that situation. One of the things a lot of people don't realize is you can make a tintable, you can make an antiquing gel out of any color of the paint. You use the HTP, the antiquing, the tintable gel. So I have put probably a half a teaspoon of the Oyster on my plate, and I'm going to add the same amount of the tintable gel into it. You want to mix it well. A little bit goes a really long way. I've actually got way more than what I need for this. But it was the easiest way to show you how to do it. And then I'm going to use a different brush because I've still got more that I need to do the antique gold off of the other piece. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab some on my brush and I'm going to pounce it out. I want to work a little bit into that brush to start with because that brush was very dry. And then I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the gold. Are the cameras good, Jim? So just to highlight, and it's a constant thing of a mantra in your head of less is more. I want to come over and do the same thing to her hair. And I can go back, now that the brush has less on it, I can go back and smooth some of that by staying on the flat side of the brush. And with very, very little on my brush, I can highlight the lines without creating a dirty effect. I'm just creating shadows and it's literally just not having much on the brush at all. Right here, I want to smooth that. highlight the shoulder bones here. But again, it's just creating some shadow, not creating heavy antiquing on this at all. And I'll pull a little bit up into her lower jaw, across her side. And can we see? Yes, we can see there. Okay. Doing the same thing to his hands. Coming across the bend of her waist here. Some shadow into the small of her back, into her upper back. Doing the same thing with him. Keeping that brush as dry as possible. Highlighting that line down his arm. Pounced off because there was a little bit more antiquing gel than I wanted. Same thing there, use my thumb to get it back off. If your brush is very dry, you can keep working it to get shading without creating big blobs of color, which ties the whole piece together without over highlighting it. All I want to do is keep this from being stark white. So that you can see what's happened with her. I'm trying something. I want to mute some of the gold in the tail. So I'm coming in with the Oyster antiquing gel. It's not taking all of the gold away. It's just giving some other coloration. And I'm letting it go heavier in some places. For the Oyster to create some shading. If I had put the oyster on first, the gold would still have been the dominant. By putting it on second, I'm getting the shading that I want and allowing the gold to come just as tiny highlights, which is what would happen. You would see just tiny shimmers, not complete gold in your face. On merfolk. I want to look at this and see where I want to make changes. Okay, that's heavier than I want right there. So I still have time to wet the corner of a paper towel that was out of my view. And soften that. The light is bright for me looking in the cameras too, so I need to be able to pick this up and look at it and see where I need to make any changes. And at this point, I'm pretty happy with it. I am going to put just the tiniest amount of gold into both their hair, but not nearly what was done in the tail. So it's just more where sunlight would hit. And you can see I'm not going everywhere on it. And that's not very much at all, but now there's a tiny bit of shimmer up here, there's shimmer here, there's shimmer in the bottom, but it's very muted. When I hang it on the wall, it's not going to show very much at all. So the other one has to be done the same way, but we're going to look at these side by side first to see how it is changing. Here in person, there is a very different tonality between this one that has not had the gold or the Oyster tintable gel, antiquing gel put on here. I like this one much better. It's much more cohesive, and it will go with the area that it's going to be in my house, because I have some oyster in the stenciling on my floor in the entry, and I also have a large metal mermaid that is hanging on the wall that these are going to be close to, and those tones have golds and coppers and silvers in that particular metal mermaid. So now these will tie together with that as well. If I was wanting to stay completely cool, I could have just put the gold here and then have done all of the rest of this in just the putty. But the champagne by itself doesn't show any difference on this. So you could also have just left it as the pearl and add those pieces over it. So I'm going to start working on this one to get it like this. For me, this is a huge improvement for using these in our home, and I hope it's helped you to see how layering in different ways can help you on a project, or the fact that if you need a specific color or you want to try a different type of color as your antiquing gel over something, that you now know you can use the tintable gel to get the look that you want. It's also extremely helpful when if you're doing the faux brick on the wall. You can use any paint color you need, mix it with the tintable gel, and you've got what you need, but mix it in small amounts because just like the paint, it dries really quick when it's out in the open air. But these are now ready to go up onto the wall, and we'll get you a shot of that at the end of the video. Thanks for joining us. Please like, subscribe, comment. Those all help us to build revenue without causing you any cost whatsoever. And it's the best thanks you can give us for any help we give you.